You know, one of the things that I've been really pleased about in the last year or so in Kentucky, we've done a pretty good job, well, I guess the last 2 years, of really finding great talent for our state. And I'm proud to be a part of looking at these folks from a standpoint of understanding that they're now my colleagues, people I get to work with all the time. And in a few minutes, we will have them introduced. But before we have them to be introduced, I'm going to introduce the person that will introduce them. We are very privileged to have in this state the Pritchard Committee, and some of you know what the Pritchard Committee is. I mean, it's really an organization that started in this state, but it's one with national prominence. I hear about it everywhere I go. And we're blessed to have a leader in this area, in this state, that focuses not only on post-secondary education, but that pipeline from early childhood through post-secondary education. So I want to introduce Bridget Blum-Ramsey, who's the Executive Director for the Pritchard Committee of Academic Excellence. Now, I've known Bridget for a long time, and I have to tell you that sometimes, you know, it's great conversations. We agree on a lot. Sometimes we don't. She pushes us to be better, and sometimes that hurts, but it's always appreciated, Bridget. I really admire the areas that Pritchard in the past and currently are focusing on, especially what they've done in the P-12 arena. But here lately, you've heard them talking a lot about post-secondary education and post-secondary attainment. Bridget is someone that comes to us with a deep background in education. She's really considered an expert on issues related to education, poverty, state taxes, and budgets. She has served in a variety of capacity with United Ways, as well as been on the school board in Pendleton County and the State Board of Education. And without further ado, we'd like to bring Bridget to the stage and kind of offer us what we need to know with this panel. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction, President Thompson. I'm going to get myself situated here. I'm always told not to draw attention to the fact that I am dwarfed behind the podium and would much prefer being out here where you can actually see me. So contrary to popular belief, size does not matter that much. You'll hear me loud and clear, no doubt. So President Thompson, I really appreciate you kind of putting the Pritchard Committee in context. I'm often reminded of our namesake's call to action to members of the Pritchard Committee, and that was that our job, almost 40 years ago now, as citizen leaders across the state, was to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And I really feel like we were in a time today where it is our charge, each and every one of us, to ask ourselves, where are we comfortable? And are others around us comfortable? And are we helping them become more so through our work? And sometimes that means we have to have the difficult and sometimes courageous conversations to really make the progress that we know we can make in this state. So I leave you, or I start, I guess, with that call from many, many years ago, that our job as leaders, as adults in this space, is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Far too often it is our young people moving through our education system from early childhood to K-12 to post-secondary education and into the workforce who are coming to us with needs, with challenges, with barriers. And it's our job to meet them where they are and help them move to the next level. Governor Bevin mentioned grit this morning when he spoke, and he questioned whether or not we can teach grit. And I certainly don't know if we can teach grit, but I know it is gained, it is earned over time. And I heard an interesting tidbit when I was in Indianapolis yesterday from a young person who does direct service with students. And she said one of the things they do, and they think about doing, is depositing enough into that young person that they can withdraw. They withdraw through challenging that young person to get better. And so I think it's important for us as we think about building grit, helping our young people, helping our adults, help Kentuckians be resilient, that we think about what we're depositing and what that means for how we can challenge them and ourselves to progress as we know we can as a state. So with that, President Thompson mentioned the Pritchard Committee. We're about 40 years old, almost. We were formalized in 1983 as a wholly independent and citizen-led organization working with a singular mission, and that was to improve the quality of life in Kentucky through education. Earlier this year, we launched something called the Groundswell Initiative, and I wish Carol was still here. Her points were so spot on about citizens working to ensure continued confidence in our public structures and continued engagement, empowerment, understanding that we are the people moving us forward. And that is embedded in the Pritchard Committee's roots. So if you're interested in that Groundswell Initiative to get more citizens engaged in education, please let us know. We at the Pritchard Committee share CPE's goal to increase post-secondary attainment and close attainment gaps for underserved populations of students. As we look at the progress we've made as a state in education in the last generation, we find that Kentucky has climbed from the bottom of the national rankings to roughly the middle, depending on the indicator. However, Kentucky is still 5th from the bottom of the nation when it comes to poverty, and that bears repeating. Our state is still 5th from the bottom of the nation when it comes to poverty. What is going to break that cycle? We know education is part of breaking that cycle. Increasing the number of individuals with high-quality degrees and credentials for a knowledge-based and entrepreneurial economy is essential. A shared vision for the state, as we heard from speakers this morning, will require good public policy, a clear commitment of resources, community leadership, and partnership. It's a big task. President Thompson, we so appreciate your call to all of us that higher education indeed matters. It matters for Kentucky's future. It is our next big play. We at the Pritchard Committee do this work for one big why. That why is because Kentucky must and because Kentucky can. We know from the past, as we've moved from the bottom of the national rankings to the middle, that we have proof of concept. We can pull ourselves up and we can move ourselves forward. And the next big play to make that happen is higher education. So with that, and thinking about the why that drives each one of us, and the importance of partnership that will get us where we want to go. This conference, this day is about partnership. As you all gather as presidents and trustees and think about your work as partners and as champions locally and how you do that work and how critical it is to the state fabric and the state progress as a whole. I want to ask each of the presidents here to introduce themselves, the university, the college they represent, and then share a little bit about your why for doing this work. What draws you to the university you represent, to the college you represent, to the community you represent? What do you hope to accomplish? And what is the role of partnership as you think about the president-trustee relationship at the local level to drive your community toward those critically important outcomes? Sherry, would you like to start?
Sure.
Okay, great. Am I passing the microphone down? Oh, no.
Well, this is a little bit different for me because with a last name like Zilka, I'm usually last, not first. But I'm very, very pleased to be here and honored to be here. I've been in community colleges most of my adult life. I literally and figuratively grew up in them. I started out as a student and kept moving forward. And I just became very passionate about the community college and how transformational we are to not only the students, but their families and the communities we live in. We make a difference. And this morning, President Thompson said that he talked about visualizing what it would be like if the community or if the universities or higher education didn't exist. I used that at my convocation this year because I wanted people to think about what it would be like if Big Sandy Community and Technical College did not exist. And it's very impactful they just were stunned for a little while and thought about that, because we are contributing to the community. And that's been my passion about giving back. I see the transformation, we see the end result of our work, and that's special because a lot of people don't get to see that. And when you get to see the change that you make in people's lives and they come back and tell you and show you what it's done for them, it's an amazing thing. And so I've always felt that passion of helping people become who they should be and where they, and really realize their potential and keep moving forward in spite of obstacles that are in their way. And for me, that's my passion. It's great to see that happen, and I'm very pleased to be a part of the higher education system here in Kentucky.
Are we going down the line? Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Neely Bendapudi. Don't panic. You can actually master the name. It's Neely, and Bendapudi is 4 syllables. Bendapudi. It rolls off your tongue. I am so proud and honored to say that I am the president of the University of Louisville. I've been here about 15 months now. And as for my why, the why for higher education is because my life was transformed through the power of higher education. I know that higher education broke my family out of the cycle of poverty. And so what a blessing it is to then have a part in making sure that it holds the same promise for the next generation. I confess that I have not been a traditional academic. Along the way at the Ohio State University, yes, I'm making fun of my previous institution. We did not get to trademark the Ohio State University, Texas A&M, etc. I always, as a business person, taught, did my traditional research, but worked with industry. I'm a recovering banker. And I decided that through all of this, higher education was still a calling for me. So why the University of Louisville? That's, I think, your next question about why this community. I knew that I definitely wanted to be in a research one university. Every university, every community college, every technical college has a role and a mission to play as part of the ecosystem for higher education in a state. I knew that's where I wanted to be. But as I looked at the different universities that are out there, I realized that the University of Louisville is actually fascinating to study. Here's why. Almost 38% of our students are Pell Grant eligible, and that is significantly higher than most institutions that are R1. Bridget and I were talking yesterday, and we thought that potentially we haven't done it, but if we went back and looked at the 120 or so universities that are in that category, we'd probably be in the top 10 for the wrong reasons, but we have such high percentage of Pell Grant eligible students. And the diversity of the communities we serve was also very interesting to me. And so I've loved being here, and I look forward to learning more from each of you. And I think that's about it.
President Bendapudi, while you've made that point about the high level of Pell eligible students at the University of Louisville, can you address how you think about student support services and the importance of those services for historically underserved students, underrepresented students, first-gen students? Why is it so important, and what is the University of Louisville doing to better support students to persist and ultimately attain a degree?
I'm so happy to address that. There's actually a whole team of mine that I need to acknowledge from our provost and others who are all working on this. As you all know, I like to keep things simple for myself, so I look at why do students drop out? Why does somebody start and then drop out? Usually to me, that's either a function of academic preparation, it's financial ability, they're dropping out because they can't pay, or something else we need, and of course, physical, mental health, I won't bring that up. The other part of it is a sense of belonging. Do you feel like you're traversing a space where you're all alone? You don't know if you quite belong. You don't know how to navigate the system. And so what we have tried to do is address all of these. We're very fortunate. We take advantage of best practices wherever they are. So right now, we're part of the APLU cluster. That's the Association of Public and Land Grant Universities. So we're part of 12 universities that are all with the urban population that we serve, the metropolitan populations, we're really focused on student success. So things that we would do, first on the academic side, to make sure that all students know the resources that are available to them. And on the financial side, we're trying to do a lot with small emergency grants so that people don't drop out. This may seem unlikely, but I tell so many people, a $100 unexpected bill can make all the difference between somebody getting a college degree and having to drop out. Because we have first generation and low income college students. What does that mean? That means they have neither the social capital nor the financial capital. That's a double whammy. We've really got to be there for them. And we are really addressing the sense of belonging as well. Everybody needs to feel they're part of a community, that there's somebody who'll stand by them. So these are some of the initiatives that we have in place. We still have a long ways to go. Since you asked, we do a good job with our underrepresented minority students. Good job is too much. I shouldn't say a good job. I can tell you that we've closed the gap between overall graduation and underrepresented minority, as you know. At the same time, I have to warn you, as a business professor, 1 year does not a trend make, you know? Just because we've closed it 1 year, there's a lot to do. We have much farther to go in terms of our low-income students. So the last thing I will say is one of the decisions we made is that we should not just bring more of them in, because the worst thing you can do to a young person whose whole family is hoping they will succeed is to have them drop out of college. They've incurred some debt and they have nothing to show for it. So we've made a commitment that we will focus not just on bringing in more of them, but in supporting them to help them graduate. So it's kudos to my board. Trustee Black is here from our board. We have made a commitment that our need-based aid, right now 8% of our institutional aid goes to need. We have made a commitment that in 3 years we'll increase it to 20%. Because what we need to do is they need more support. It's not just bringing people in, making sure that they graduate.
Thank you, thank you.
Good afternoon. Dr. Thompson, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And my name is Kofi Akapo. I'm from Bluegrass Community and Technical College. My why, having had the opportunity to work at university and community college, I feel like I belong at a community college. Why? Because of the transformational work that we do. Taking people from hopelessness to hopefulness is something that I enjoy every single day. To touch on the point the president made earlier, when I went to BCTC, my first month, there is a report that I always love to see. How many students are on probation? 1,300 students out of 9,500 were on probation. And 200 students got dismissed that same time. So 1,500. Here are people who came to us to better their lives. And then we turn around and we tell them, well, you need to be on the fence because you'll be kicked out soon. And then the second term, you get kicked out. 200. I wonder, I ask my folks, if someone does that to you, would you be able to come back? Because the self-esteem wasn't there for many of our students. Then they come and you tell them, 200 of them in one term, go home. So that's what I wake up every day to do, to make sure we truly meet every student where they are. Because we get the so good and the not so good. And our job is, I view my job as equity and social justice. How do we level the playing field for our students so they all have the same opportunity? And I love doing that every single day. A relationship between my board and I, they are on board, they support me 100% with what I'm doing.
Thank you, President Akapo.
Thank you. I'm Bob Jackson. I'm president. I have the honor of being president of Murray State University. The presidents were talking just a moment ago. We felt like Dr. Thompson were in timeout up here, the 4 of us. So we're at Target. You know, my why is I'm a Kentuckian. I'm a lifelong Kentuckian. My family's been in this state nearly since it was a state. And it's very, very important to me and my family. The issues facing us are vitally important today. I'm not sure that we've had a moment in our history from a higher education or education standpoint in general that's more important than this period of time. And as the last speaker mentioned, everyone in here is an advocate. Everyone. It's not just the presidents of the institutions. Everyone here can make a huge difference with our legislative leaders, our administrative leaders in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We have good people here who all care about, and I see former legislators and Senator Gibbons here, they all care about what we're doing today in Kentucky. You know, it's a given. Academic quality, student success, those are givens. Access and affordability aren't givens. And we've got to do a better job in those areas in the days ahead. And in my career, in my lifetime, I think those are the two most important issues today that I've seen in many, many years that are facing us that we must address as a Commonwealth in order to improve, in order to advance ourselves economically, from a workforce development standpoint, from a K through 12 standpoint, Commissioner. Those issues of access and affordability are vital to us. Thank you.
Thank you, President Jackson. So I'd like to dig a little bit more deeply into the idea of partnership. President Thompson mentioned that I served for a decade as a local Board of Education member and then 6 years on the State Board of Education. So I value the partnership that happens between those leaders as superintendent, commissioner, and their board members, and how that partnership and that shared vision is critically important for forward progress and to engage your community, to mobilize your community behind that shared vision. So if we think about our universities, our colleges, the presidents and the trustees as a microcosm of our state system of coordinating board and board members, I'd like each of you to think about that relationship. When it works well, what it looks like when it works well, and what it means for your community when that relationship works well. And if you don't mind, I guess even if you do mind, I'm going to ask if each one of the groups of trustees who are here for Big Sandy, University of Louisville, Bluegrass, and Murray would stand up and be recognized as part of this panel discussion, because you're critical to this effort locally. So thank you all, and thank you for your service on behalf of higher education and your community. So with that, I'll kind of open it up. Who would like to address that relationship, that important relationship between the trustee and the president and what it means for the community?
I'll add this quickly. Governor Haslam did a very good job this morning speaking, and of course we all watch Tennessee closely, especially those of us on the Tennessee border. Murray State University is 7 miles from the Tennessee border, so obviously we watch that state very closely. And I think I have this right. I see Renee Shaw here. Don't quote me on this exactly, but prior to World War II, Kentucky was bigger than Tennessee, or they were at least close in size. Today, Tennessee is about 50% larger. Now, this relates to all the advocates here and the relationship between presidents and boards and community leaders and legislators and on and on and on. Those are vitally important. But something happened in Tennessee post-World War II. I'm not sure. We can argue, is it economic development, a focus on policy there? Is it a focus on educational policy? I mean, what did they do differently that we're still grappling with today? I'm not sure. I'm really not. But something happened and something changed, and it took a concerted effort from many leaders in Tennessee to make that happen. And Governor Haslam, when he hit on that today, it just really caused me to pause and think about what are those components? What could we be doing differently? And that's going to mean engaging, Bridget, the boards, our communities, our regions. We all represent 4 different regions of this Commonwealth, very different regions. And our needs and issues are very different. Our workforce development needs are very different. Our economic development needs are very different. So we must take time and pause. I think this is a time in this point in history to think about what are those issues. And I think that may be a global question for all of us.
The example I'd like to use is something that occurred recently, and you talk about an ecosystem and how we all work together. Since I'm not from Kentucky, I do heavily rely on my board members as well as community members to orient me and help me find resources, that sort of thing. And recently at the SOAR conference, which is shaping our Appalachia region, located in eastern Kentucky, there was an announcement made that we are going to be in partnership with the Pikeville Medical Center, but it also reaches deeper than just working with them directly to address the nursing shortage. We're also going to start reaching deeper into the high schools in Pike County to have students try out allied health professions to see if it's something they want to go into. But taking it one step further is we worked with Secretary Ramsey to provide some funding for that, and we're going to have a signing meeting on Monday. We also are working in cooperation with the University of Pikeville so that students can go from high school to Big Sandy and then to U-Pike to finish their degree. We're also looking at working very closely with U-Pike to do internships, externships, and they're also trying to find space for us at their hospital, once we get approval from our accreditors, to hold classes there. So that's an example of something that worked out really well through building relationships, identifying a need, getting the data that went along with it, and then coming together to make it a reality. So we're really looking forward to that relationship to continue to grow and foster and hopefully spread out more into the community in the other service areas that I have. Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead. Well, speaking of partnership, I don't think we can meet the challenge we face today without partnering. So that's why when I came to Kentucky, my first 6 months, I made it my goal to meet with all the superintendents in my 14 county area, which I did. And I can't say more about the university president. They have been great to work with. Dr. Capelouto and I have met so many times. Dr. Blackwell, the provost, has been excellent to work with. We are currently in the process of looking at our partnership and see how we can make the transition from BCTC to UK more seamless for students. Dr. Benson has been phenomenal. And on and on, my plan is even to reach out to my colleague here in the days to come, employers, anything we can do to be available, that's what I'm for.
Talking about the boards, maybe this will be interesting to you. Many of us as presidents bring the vantage of having served on boards ourselves. I've sat on a public company board for over 20 years now, or private and nonprofit. Those of you who are on boards of different universities, I bet one thing that surprises you is how we have faculty, staff, and students on our boards. When I explain to business colleagues who is on my board, they're usually surprised. They're like, what? How can you have people who work for you on your board of trustees? I don't know if any of you had that question, but I can tell you that a lot of people are usually surprised. So when we talk about partnership, what I wanted to start with is that our board, it starts with making sure that our key constituencies, our faculty, our staff, our Senate, our students, senates are all involved in where we are going. And in terms of working with the board, the beauty of this is that pretty much everybody on my board, as on your board, they're not doing this for the high pay, right? President Thompson, is that right? We cannot give them raises. And for most of them, it's not like they need one more line on their resume. They're really doing this because they care. They care about the students, they care about the university, and they care above all about the Commonwealth. That's what helps us. So for us in our board, as we have discussions, I'm looking at Senator Givens here, so performance funding, that's something we'd all look at and say, what do we do? What does that mean? How are these incentivizing the right behaviors? And then we talk about partnerships across with industry. We talk about partnerships. The very fact that we have 4 people from our General Assembly going to be on the next panel. That's incredible that they're taking the time to be here and talk to us, because it's about the future of higher education. I loved the message about President Thompson about communicating the value proposition of higher education. And I think that's probably the biggest conversation between our board and myself. And so I don't know if you want to delve into more specifics, but I would say also, quite candidly, it's a tough question to ask us. All 4 of us, we believe it, but honestly, what else would we say too, right? We love our boards. Bonita Black, I just want you to know. But my point is, it has to be very collaborative. It has to be something where we are coming together because we believe in a bigger vision than ourselves. Sorry, I was just kidding.
There's no doubt it's hard work. Working in partnership, working through collaboration is difficult work, but our communities deserve that, deserve to see that. Our students deserve to see it at the local level and at the state level as we drive forward and try to improve the quality of life in our state through education, economic development, and health. I'd like to turn now to reflecting on Governor Bevin's comments about what Kentucky's economy could be as we think ahead. And again, thinking back to my comment about Kentucky being 5th from the bottom of the nation in poverty. So really thinking about the intersection between economic development and education is critical if we're going to increase the quality of life in Kentucky for Kentuckians and for Kentucky's families. And I want to ask this question directly to President Zilka and President Akapo about 2-year degrees and credentials and the role that they play in your respective environments, Lexington and Appalachia respectively, the role that they play for young people, for learners, for community, and how that can contribute to Kentucky's future economy. And I'm also going to go ahead and let folks in the room know that when you have a question, please let someone know, and we'll start to open up for questions in the midst of the questions that I'm asking, so this can really be a conversation.
Well, the work that we're doing at Big Sandy Community and Technical College is so critical for the region. Everybody's aware of the decline in coal mining, and we have a huge outmigration of population in our area right now, and we're trying to do everything we can to keep them within the community, which means we need to attract businesses to the community too. And in order to do that, we need an educated workforce. So we are working very closely with local businesses as well as all the support services to get students to the college and help them finish what they start. We have a lot of the stackable certificates where they can take a short-term class and get a credential and then go to work and then come back and keep stacking on those credentials to get their degree or to transfer out depending on what their personal goals are. But I think it's critical too to note that just trying to get people on campus to show them that they can do this, that they got this, that they really should have faith in themselves. When I go to the classrooms and talk to students, I tell them, if you're struggling personally, professionally, financially, academically, talk to somebody. We do have resources because we do want them to finish what they start. And it's critical for our region to create those jobs, or the educated workforce to fill those jobs. And we're working diligently, like I said, with various businesses to have people come in and help support what we're doing. We're trying to get all the local partnerships together with some of the major businesses to just help support the kids and get them in. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the populations of community colleges, but most of them go part-time. Most of them stop out because they have family obligations or something happens. So our goal is to create a safe environment for them to come in and finish what they start so that they can stay in the community. One of the things I've come to learn about the Appalachia region is people don't want to leave. They're there for generations upon generations upon generations. They want to stay, and we want them to stay. So we're going to do everything we can to address that issue of providing the opportunity for them and to keep them in once they are there.
Well, when I came to Kentucky, I had 2 goals in mind. One is help improve the education attainment rates in central Kentucky. The second one is to close the skill gaps. The first one, I'm glad Dr. Thompson is looking at me, Secretary Ramsey is looking at me. I have already shared my concern with them. coming from Ohio, dual credits, the state allows up to 30 a year and paid for. So within 3 years after Governor Casey came up with that, most institutions on average have a 30% of their total population as dual credit. In Kentucky, we only allow 2 classes, and it's paid at a third of the rates. It's not enticing. If you truly want us to move the needle, you have to help us. We need to keep the doors open. We're not in the business of making money, but if we truly believe in making this happen, the investment has to come with it. And right now, it's not there. So as you make decision, we beg you, help us help our great states. The second one, close the skills gap. We at BCTC are taking the classroom to the employers. Any way we can make it flexible and easy enough for them to do with a stackable certificate, we are doing all those. And I believe that's the only way we can make that bigger impact.
I wanted to follow up with a comment related to the gap, the equity gap, in terms of getting people to finish what they start. I'm going to be attending in a couple of weeks something sponsored by the American Association of Community Colleges called Unfinished Business. And what they're looking at is we've got the access piece pretty much on the right track, but what are the outcomes? And what are the barriers to students that are trying to complete? How do we close that equity gap? Whether it's they don't have access to the internet, whether it's they don't have transportation. And from what I understand, 3 meetings have occurred already, and they said they're difficult conversations sometimes because they're really trying to look at what's holding students back and how do we close that equity gap. And so I'm real excited about being able to attend that, so next time maybe I can share more information about some of the suggestions that they came up with. But I think that to underscore it, this is happening nationally. It's not just in Kentucky, it's a national conversation, but it's one we're all bound and determined, I think, to try and close that equity gap somehow, some way.
Thank you, Sherry and Kofi, for your comments, and particularly intrigued about your comment about stackable, transferable credentials. And thinking ahead how an enriched system of stackable and transferable credentials could really help to raise our attainment level in Kentucky and serve to better acknowledge the skills and the knowledge that so many of our Kentuckians have, even though they are without a degree. So how do we better create a system with on and off ramps, knowing that life happens, as they say, and we need to better design a system that can better support our folks in progressing through the workforce with the skills and the knowledge that they need. So look forward to continuing that conversation. President Bendapudi, additional comments?
Yes, I just love what they're saying because I firmly believe that we all have to work together. I've preached this forever, that we're all working for the Commonwealth. So there's a way. So in terms of our partnerships, I love what you're talking about because we're doing the same thing from our end with our community colleges and even the schools to say, how do we create pathways? How do we make it easy for people? We do things like from the community college, they can start using our library, using our system. Like we want to make it as seamless as possible and as welcoming as possible. But your idea of the stackable certificates and the skills gap, personally, I think one of the biggest challenges we will face, being fifth at the bottom doesn't frighten me. You have to start somewhere, and it's kind of cool to say, we will be the ones that will leapfrog, right? Somebody has to be ahead. Why not us? But the thing that will hold us back is the digital divide. It's not enough to say just that they're getting degrees. Are they getting degrees in the places where there will be jobs of the future? So at the University of Louisville, we've really tried to say, how do we partner with different businesses? And so, for example, with IBM, this is what came to my mind, Bridget, in terms of stackable certificates, where we're trying to say 8 areas that are going to be important for the digital economy, from artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, cloud, cybersecurity, data analytics. I won't list them all, but all of these, including quantum computing. We now have partnerships because we don't have the resources to go bring in the world-class faculty to teach every single class in all of these. We have researchers or faculty who have deep bench and they can teach this, but we cannot do this alone. So with IBM, we're developing curricula so that the students can either take the class for credit and also get a certification along the way, or they can get just the skill certification, and then maybe they're motivated to say, come back and take more classes. That's just one example. With mentoring, we've started in a very preliminary phase with Facebook to say, how do we create mentorships for students that's not just person to person? Because we're trying to see how can we give every single student I'm calling it the P3 mentoring, a professor. I use the word loosely. It might be a faculty member or a staff member, but ideally a faculty member that can guide them, a peer mentor, and a professional out in the field. So I think that to bridge the digital divide, get this into the hands of the people who need it the most, and they definitely need the mentors, because not all of us are native born in terms of the digital technology. We need somebody to show us the road. So I think that's very promising across all of us that we're working on those.
Great point. I am not one of those native born when it comes to technology and still find myself with lots of paper, so I appreciate that.
Richard,
And
may I add one thing to that? I think that's vitally important as we talk about closing the gap in Kentucky, and there's several superintendents, or a few superintendents here, former superintendents. And again, we represent 4 distinct regions of this Commonwealth, and at Murray State University, our region is vastly different, but there is still a tremendous low-income, underrepresented minority gap that we must address as we're trying to fill the other gaps that we're talking about. It's obvious, it's notable. I'm in high schools regularly. I know my colleagues are. We're in community colleges regularly. It's the #1 issue that we hear about across this Commonwealth is, how do I do this? You know, is the playing field level? How do I find the money? And it takes that one-on-one effort. It takes a combined effort. It takes a K through 12 effort. It takes a community college effort. It's one, again, that we must address if we're going to close the gaps in Kentucky in all areas. That's where I think we have to start, is the issue of affordability and access, and making sure everyone fully understands that process, and making sure we all fully understand what that means. And the CPE has done an excellent job, Dr. Thompson, in regard to telling that story often to us and making sure we fully understand it. But it's vitally important east to west.
Excellent point. President Jackson, while you have the microphone, President Akapo mentioned the importance of investment, and we've talked about investment this morning. I asked Governor Haslam about his leadership in reinvesting in higher education in the state of Tennessee in a way that really no other state is currently. Tennessee really is leading. They are our longest border state, and you referenced being in that part of Kentucky. And they are positioning themselves to turn the corner into the future economy, if you will, on the inside of that turn. Where does Kentucky want to be, and what is the role of investment or reinvestment in higher education for you and your part of the state at Murray? Also thinking through the lens of being a former senator, you know how the sausage is made, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I appreciate that. Let me qualify one thing. Everything Tennessee is doing is not perfect, by the way. So my friends in Tennessee, I want to make that crystal clear. But they're doing a lot of things right, and Kentucky's doing a lot of things right, and I think we can learn from each other. But that is a big issue. That state is investing in higher education. And for all of my former colleagues that are out there, I understand the pressures. We understand the pressures, whether it's pensions, whether it's reinvesting in higher education, or any Medicaid, and the list goes on and on and on. We have some real challenges in front of us as a Commonwealth, so we understand that. But to turn the corner, we do have to make investments. 25 years ago, about 70% of our state appropriations came from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and 30% came from tuition and fees. So it gets into this issue of access and affordability again, and I don't want to sound like a broken record on that, but they're related. They're hand in glove. Today, that it's flipped. It's 30-70. It's 30/70. So we have to analyze that. We have pressures in regard to pensions, at least the comprehensive institutions do. We've addressed some of that. We have a lot to do in that area, at least at Murray State. We have issues regarding asset preservation, deferred maintenance. At Murray State University, and because I'll speak to our institution only, I don't want to speak for anyone else, it's $300+ million of deferred maintenance inventory, if you will. And so there needs to be an investment there, and I've been very pleased with the administration and the legislature in regard to helping us address and look at how we can close that particular gap, if you will. The CPE has been very helpful in their recommendations in regard to that. Dr. Thompson's been, he preaches that regularly, and we appreciate that, and the CPE in general. So we must start investing again. We're one of 3 or 4 or 5 states not reinvesting back into higher education. I think that's time, and I think it's critically important. We can do better, and we must do better for the years ahead.
Are there any questions in the audience? Yes.
So I just have a question. The governor shared with us today that we need to think differently, and everybody really needs to think about the 3 things that they're best at, and how can we share resources across the state. When you think about that for your specific, universities, campuses, what does that mean for you?
So the question is about the 3 priorities given the different mission or orientation of different colleges and universities in different parts of the state. So what might be the top priorities for each of the presidents on the panel?
Well, and more importantly, how can you then share resources or use resources from other places where you don't have it? Kind of building on what you were talking about around the technology piece or system cyber.
In the role of partnership around resources? Okay, great.
I'll get started with that. One of the things that I'm learning about Kentucky is about counties and regions and that type of thing. And coming from Michigan, I was working in Metro Detroit, and there were 9 community colleges within a 50-mile radius of downtown Detroit, and they had their own independently elected boards. So there was a lot of competition going on there. And I was able to start a regional partnership so that way we could be competitive on certain things and collaborative on others. And it was a challenge because I got put in charge and I had to have people take off their competitive hat and put on their collaborative hat so we could get the work done. But one of the things that I've been working really hard with my colleagues in Eastern Kentucky, Vic Adams and Jennifer Linden and Larry Ferguson, is to try and get together and be collaborative. That we each have areas that we've got strengths in that we don't want to compete in. But if the things that pop that are expected to happen in Eastern Kentucky, the playground's big enough for all of us. I've known in Eastern Kentucky that people will drive 2 hours to a job. And so we're really trying to just have some conversations with each other to say, where do we want to play and where can we help offset each other's strengths and weaknesses, because there's not enough money to necessarily fund every program all over again. So where can we help each other out and be collaborative? So that we're at the beginning stages of that, and I'm really looking forward to the partnership and relationship. The other day, somebody called me, Vic, and Jennifer, the 3 amigos. So that's a good sign that word's getting out, that we're trying to be collaborative and help each other out.
Next question.
Well, I have a long list, but I will just give you a few. Again, I can never thank Dr. Kapoludo enough. UK has been a great partner. I'll give you an example. We have need for search tech, and I got a call from UK asking me to add additional cohort, and they will pay for it. Instead of competing, we join hands to serve the need of the community. So being part of a KCTCS system, we share a lot. And I can tell you, in Ohio, for 4 years, I tried to purchase Starfish software for student success. It was cost prohibitive. Because we are a system, we have it available for all 16 schools. I was with Baptist Health just last month, and they have need for more such tech. I told them we're doing the same thing with the UK. Are you willing to help us? They said they'll fund 1 faculty position and the expenses so we can add additional cohorts. So it's something that I'm very proud of. We work closely with hospitals, Department of Justice. We just entered into a partnership where all the criminal justice officers throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky will be trained through BCTCS. And it's something that will be done all online, and people from all over the state will get that credential.
Earlier this summer, the Pritchard Committee released results from our second annual education poll of the state. And we asked questions specifically about post-secondary. The vast majority of voters understand the connection between higher degrees in education, whether they be certificates, credentials, or degrees, and jobs in the economy. The vast majority of voters said people need more than a high school degree. They also said that they have great concern about affordability. So the conversation we've been having all day long is also on the mind of voters. They understand the importance of investing in this area, and they understand the importance of partnerships to ensure that we're supporting learners, at whatever age they might be, to attain those degrees, certificates, and credentials. I want to pull out one theme that we heard today and also pay attention if there are questions. Heather, any other questions coming up? I think our time is almost up. But another theme that's come out today and has come out on the panel is the issue of quality and ensuring high quality, marketable degrees and certificates that work in today's economy, but also set up Kentuckians to be the job creators of our future. So yes, training, yes, knowledge, capacity, and development. Yes, skill development, and entrepreneurial mindsets. We have to say yes to all of those things. And we know that HR directors nationally, globally, say there are top things that are important to them, and they are in skill competency. They are in creativity, problem solving, communication. So yes to knowledge, but also yes to skill development and competency development. How are our universities infusing all of that into rich programs that result in high quality marketable degrees for Kentuckians?
Well, I'm very proud of Murray State University, and I'll try not to give a commercial here, but I mean, we've been known for our quality and for our student success for a long, long time. And we're very proud of our institution. We're a long way away from the rest of the state. Our westernmost border is 300 miles to the state capital. So we're very different. We have the best faculty in the world, the best staff in the world, the best students in the world, and our metrics will show that and prove that out. So I think we're doing a lot of things right. Not everything. Obviously, we have work to do as well. And we'll continue that work. And that's through partnerships with our community college partnerships. That's partnerships with our K through 12 institutions. And we constantly, continuously are looking at how do we improve the programs that we have? How do we grow those programs? What programs do we need to pull back? Which programs need to be enhanced? But I think that the metrics, and whether you look at any of them, and I won't name any of them, our institution does very well in all of those, and we're very, very proud of that. So I think we're doing some things right, and we have a lot to do again in that area, and we'll continue to do that work. And I know that I think I speak for all of us in that regard. You know, we've all had to become more nimble in the last 10 years. And so it's forced us to look at our programs and our activities and everything outside that core of teaching and learning. And so as we get beyond those key academic programs, Bridget, to your point, we have to be very, very thoughtful in how we address those things outside of teaching and learning. And I think that's helped us be more efficient in what we do.
One of the things that I'd also like to add something onto that, and that's working with the employers and your advisory committees, because they're the ones that are out there working in the field and have the knowledge and understand what the true need is. So we work closely with advisory committees on all of our campuses for all of our technical programs, and that's really the benefit to us to make sure that we're on the cutting edge and making sure we're meeting the needs of the local employers. I recently had some discussions with one of the big three automotive companies that they have a kind of a sponsorship program that I'm looking into. And one of the things they stressed was that they're there to be on our advisory committees too, to make sure that our automotive programs are up to date and are employable once they get out. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves. But I just wanted to add that point about advisory committees.
I think that this is an excellent question in terms of how do we balance all of these, which is what I hear you say, and also how we need to say yes to all. And I think that I'll step away from just my university because we have the board of CPE here as well. I know this is a conversation we all have, certainly with President Thompson, which is how do we make sure through the college education that while we certainly prepare them for the job right away, that we are also giving them the skills that they are able to learn, that they can switch. We hear increasingly how they'll have many careers, not just many jobs at different places. So I'm just going to say, for this, I think it's important as we look at our curriculum that we not ignore the liberal arts, that we don't ignore the basic sciences and not just the applied. I think that broad-based education still matters, very much so. I just have to say that. However, where we need to stop thinking of those false binaries that you can have this or that. For example, we're making a big push for the digital humanities. Doesn't matter, study what you want, what you're interested in, but you know that the future implies that there'll be some aspect of digital literacy you will need. Whether you're studying philosophy, study the ethics of data privacy. You know, like trying to create that type of linkage, I think, is important and something that we should all be looking at. And for example, we are defining student success in our strategic plan as catering to the whole student now, next, and beyond. So what we think is, are they successful today? While they're in school, are they progressing as they need to? Next is their first job. This came up multiple times. I try to tell my students, you can think lofty thoughts. You don't have to do it in your parents' basement, right? There's nothing wrong with being employable. So start to talk about it from day one. And then the beyond is we hope we have lifelong learners, that they look to us, that they come back, and that we give them on-ramps and off-ramps very quickly. Not everybody will go a linear path. So we, for example, are putting a big push on people who have some college but haven't completed it. So we call it the comeback cards. Come back. If you have a little bit, we'll help you. Maybe you've gained life experience. So credit for prior learning, credit for life experience. Those sorts of things will be important. Bridget, you've got me thinking about this. We used to talk about the 3 R's as fundamentals, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic. Now they talk about it as the 4 C's or the 5 C's that we need for the next economy, which is creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, cultural competency. These are all things we need to be thinking about. So it's success now, next, and beyond.
And the 3 R's for student supports, rigor, relevance, and relationship, right? So we've got them. The R's, the C's, we've got it.
I love it.
President Jackson.
I want to add one more thing. It's something that we started doing last fall, and if you're not doing this, you may consider it. Our region is a big region. It's very different, east to west, north to south. And so we formed, in partnership with our community colleges, a regional campus advisory council. So we're listening to industry and business. What do you need? How do we help you become more successful? How do we help our students become more successful? So we're asking those questions. We have active leaders in each of our major communities. We have 5 regional campuses, including Fort Campbell, in our service region. And so I think it's important for us to ask those questions from time to time. And it's really interesting, some of the feedback we're getting that I think will be helpful to the institution and the state as a whole. And lastly, and this may be about it, I wanted to say this in closing. Part of this is, personally, and I think I speak for everyone, I appreciate this symposium. And I appreciate everyone being here, and I appreciate the interest in public higher education. I appreciate our leadership that are here today to talk about these issues as well. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to really make some changes in the years to come. And doing this annually, Dr. Thompson, I think is a wonderful idea. So thank you.
I hope you all can feel the energy, the excitement, the inspiration that has been with us all day long in this conference like I have, from beginning through the end, no doubt, as Renee Shaw will take the stage here in a couple minutes, and really take that home with you. It's clear from President Thompson's comments to Governor Bevin's comments to the address from former Governor Haslam that lifelong learning is critically important for our forward progress. Higher education is Kentucky's next big play, and I hope we all leave here today recommitted to that idea in our local communities and as a state, so that we turn the corner on the inside along with Tennessee. And with that, please join me in giving a round of applause for our panelists.